Hello, everyone, and welcome to That's a Wrap. My name is Anthony Gentry, and joining me today is...
Austin Jameson. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you today?
It's a pleasure to be back,
Yeah.
Anthony, for our live listeners.
Obviously, if you listened last week, we did Infinity Pool, and I think I feel confident in saying that was our best episode.
Yeah, I think it was super solid. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out to the many listeners who joined us.
Yeah, we had such great chemistry on that one. It's our best episode by far. If you haven't listened to it, what are you doing?
How far are we going to take this bit before people think that there was an episode last week, Anthony?
We did not record last week.
No, unfortunately we skipped it.
No.
It was a break week for us. We both deserved one.
Yeah.
But we're back.
Infinity Pool looked a little too freaky. And we were tired.
I will say mostly tired. Anthony was kind of the scaredy one
of
the
scaredy
bunch for
cat.
sure. Yeah. Anyway, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about four things. Well, technically five.
Yeah.
We're talking about a trailer. We're talking about a movie. We're talking about 2 episodes of a show since we skipped last week, and we're talking about another movie. So let's get into it.
So ambiguous.
Yes. Our first trailer for the day is going to be The Portable Door, a Stan original, whatever that means. But it has some big names. It has Christoph Waltz. It has the guy from Jurassic Park, Sam Neill.
Okay.
And a few others that I forget now. It looks like a period piece fantasy kind of film.
It I don't know. It turns into Fantastic Beasts halfway through it.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to put this up as a big franchise.
It's weird. I'm not totally opposed to it. It starts off with an interesting concept, where it's there's a company or some organizational body that manufactures the coincidences of your life.
Yeah.
And that's really silly, and I like that idea. And then it got super fantastic, wands and magical powers, and everybody has different abilities, and it's very odd. I don't know. I'll wait until more comes out about this. But what did you think about it, Anthony?
I am right there with you. I thought the trailer was okay. I was with it the first half, and then like you said, it went into this kind of Fantastic Beasts-esque madness. And I don't know, it's kind of weird that they're fighting over a door.
Well, yeah, I guess the gimmick is he has a door that goes anywhere, and
I think so. Yeah,
he also kind of works for the company that does the things, but something bad happens, and then people throw magic at each other. I don't know. The trailer didn't really elaborate much, which is what I prefer, but also I've not.
But you wanted to still give you enough to hook you, and I'm not sure if it fully did that.
Yeah, because this gave me the vibes of a Disney movie that you don't hear about and isn't advertised for, and it comes out and 4 people like it, but also only 4 people saw it.
Yeah.
So it's a Stan original. Who knows? It might be huge.
There's only one release date, and it's for Australia for next month.
Okay.
So I don't know if we'll even be able to watch it.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're in Australia, look out for that movie coming next month, March 23rd.
Also, Anthony, have you ever sat down and watched Bluey? Speaking of Australia,
no.
It goes hard.
It does?
Yeah,
okay.
I watched a few episodes recently.
Do you just do it on a whim?
Yeah, it was I feel like I need this right now. Well, no, or I don't know.
I need Bluey.
Because I think there should be pride in watching Bluey. But my girlfriend was watching Bluey, and she wanted me to watch some episodes with her, and I did. And it's as far as kids cartoons
I
go,
hear a lot of good things about it. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
I hear Disney Plus has censored it.
They censored it?
Yeah.
I've not heard about that. I'm not here for the Bluey controversy. I'm here for Australian media, I guess. Anyways, that was my Bluey segment. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Anyway, moving on. If you listened to our last episode, we talked about the Oscar nominations, and we said we have not watched a lot of the nominees, but we want to. And in that time, we have watched some of the nominees, and one of those is Tar.
Yes.
And this movie is nominated for Best Picture. I know Best Actress.
Yeah.
Do you know if it's for Best Director or Writing? I think Director it is.
Possibly. I'm not sure.
It's been 2 weeks. I don't know. But it's one of the big front runners.
Yes.
And we both watched it.
Yeah.
Austin, what did you think about it?
Jeez Louise. This movie was clearly somebody put a lot of care into this movie to make it, but my God, it went right over my head. It's extremely dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
It's like almost exclusively dialogue when it's
Which is like what you expect in an Oscar movie.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is what I expect in an Oscar movie. And that's the best, like, well, okay. If Tar had a scene that was just rocks with googly eyes, maybe I'd like it a little more. But
well, I guess this is the conventional Oscar movie.
I guess so. But those are boring. And
okay.
if I wanted to see dialogue and rewards for dialogue, I would go to a play, not a movie. Anyways,
you are missing out.
What do you mean?
There's a lot of good dialogue movies.
They're good, but they could be better. They need to use the medium properly. I'm not listening to a podcast. I'm watching something with my eyes. Most of the time. Sometimes there's some good, like there's a lot of good like Audible stuff, and they use that medium well. There's like a musical called 36 Questions that's like complete. It's a podcast. And they do a really good job of that. Anyways, rant aside, which I was not expecting to get into, Tar was really boring to me. I don't think it was like it's a 2 hour and like 40-minute long movie.
Yeah, it is really long.
And it is the slowest burn of my life. I'd rather like sit there. Well, I don't know. Like most long movies like that, you need to have something really interesting or really captivating to like keep me watching. And Tar was very difficult to stay through.
Okay.
What do you think of Tar?
See, even though I disagree with your movie philosophy, I do think that there are some good dialogue movies and that it does utilize the medium well. I do agree with you about this movie. It is very heady. It's a movie that is, like I said, it's an Oscar movie where at some points it can get very pretentious. But I do think...
yeah.
Yeah. I do think it has like a lot of good ideas. There's one point where it gets very interesting, but it's the third act.
I mean, yeah. Like in this whole movie, there's like 15 minutes that I would want to rewatch. This definitely falls into the category of movies that if you want to fully understand whatever on earth the director and the writers
you have to watch it multiple times.
You have to take it to English
That
class.
is one of my faults with it too, because some movies where you have to watch it multiple times, you can still enjoy it on the first watch.
Yeah.
But with this movie, they just give you things without telling you anything about it, no context whatsoever, and they don't even try to help at all. And maybe I'm just being like a dumb little movie fan, where I'm like spoon feed me the information. But I mean, like, give me something.
It's so hard to balance.
It is, yeah. That's exactly right. They just didn't balance it well.
I think. Or you go.
Okay, I was just gonna say I do like it when a movie is like you gotta figure this out on your own. But this just did way too much.
Right. It was incredibly ambiguous with its writing and like what it wanted you to know and what it wanted you to assume. It's kind of all over the place. It's just kind of a drag. The performances are decent. Cate Blanchett did a good job. And also just for anybody watching, like if you know Tar, I went into Tar initially thinking that it was based on a real person because that's what they try to make believe.
They do try.
It's completely not. And so they like artificially created one of the most boring famous people I've ever met.
I wouldn't say that she's boring because of what you figure out about her, but the movie.
I think what I'm upset about going into it, and this is on me, this isn't on the movies, this isn't the movie's fault, because I didn't know anything. I saw one Instagram clip, or just like it's a clip I saw on Instagram of it, and I thought it was about music. I thought it was about orchestra, and like this like conductors or like maestro like they're grappling with something in their life while balancing the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like just her life. It doesn't rely on music, and when it does rely on music,
Mm-hmm.
man, I was a band kid. I sat through it all. I did all, like, I like music and I appreciate music, but my God, the people who wrote this movie are the biggest nerds I've ever seen ever. Like,
see, sorry, you can go.
When you said pretentious, that's immediately what I thought of. Was the
Yeah.
like them? There's a one shot. I think they only do one. They might do a couple one shots, but the one that I'm thinking of,
when she
Tar
teaches
does a lecture.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel so bad for her. Like, she did a great job making it seem like she's a nerd. But man, like, nobody knows what you're talking about. I don't know. That was a complaint of mine, but that's on me not enjoying that specific style of writing. I'm sure if I was a PhD in anything related to music, I'm sure I would have ate that up.
I think I did like this movie more than you.
Probably.
Like, I was spoiled on a lot of stuff before I watched it, so I knew where a lot of the stuff was going. I just wasn't a big fan of how they executed it in context. But when you do know going in, it is a really great like study of power and how someone abuses that power, and like the twists and turns that it takes is very interesting, but the execution is just where it flounders. Like, Cate Blanchett, she does put in a great performance. I love Cate Blanchett and like all the things she's done. I wouldn't say she's the front runner for the Oscar. I would still give it to Michelle Yeoh. I think she just does such a great job with it. But like you said, like, she does do a really great job in this movie too.
I don't know. That's really all I got to say about Tar. I don't not recommend it, and I can understand why it was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I still would recommend it.
Like, at the end of the day, I think it has a small group of people that it appeals to, and then everybody else. And I'm in the everybody else, unfortunately, because I really thought I was gonna. I went in with like not high expectations, but I was excited to see it still. And it kind of let me down, but that was all. It's just I don't think it was meant for me.
Yeah. Speaking of movies that we watched this past week,
right?
I did watch another movie that I thought was like an Oscar movie. It was not. I am super surprised and I'm super bummed out. And that's She Said.
Gotcha.
This movie was amazing. I loved it through and through. For those of you who don't know, it's about the journalist who broke the Harvey Weinstein case in 2017.
Gotcha.
And it goes from like a journalist kind of movie to a mystery, like a thriller at points. And when we were talking about like balancing, they balance all of that really well, and they just do a great job at I didn't want this to be like a whole big review because we do have a lot to talk about, but I just want to say, if you're on Peacock, don't watch Tar, or watch Tar if you want to, but watch She Said because that's on there.
Okay. Also on the horizon was Poker Face with Ryan Johnson and all that.
Yes, or just watch Violent Night.
There's a lot you can do. And that's up to you. Yes. As the consumer of this media, you pick. Exactly. The world is your oyster, and there's only so many streaming services that you can pick from. So.
Speaking of streaming, we watched
good segue. Nice.
I watched another streaming thing.
Yeah. I also own a streaming service. It's called HBO.
And on HBO, we watched The Last of Us.
Yes.
Let's start with episode 3 because obviously we were not able to review it last week.
Yes, and spoilers.
Spoilers for episode 3 and 4. Nothing afterwards. We're not going to spoil anything after the game. I guess skip ahead 10-ish minutes.
Well,
15?
we have 2 episodes to talk about. I'd give us 15 minutes.
15 minutes? All right. Are you timing it right now?
I'm going to.
Okay, stop us at like 7.5 for this episode so we can have the same amount of time for the next.
All right, I've started it. Go ahead and skip if you're listening right now, and you don't want spoilers for Last of Us, which I would recommend. Go experience it for yourself first.
Yes, go watch it.
Skip ahead 15 minutes, and we'll try our best to be sure and done by then. So, episode 3, what'd you think?
This episode was the biggest deviation from the game by far, and it is the best episode so far. I loved this episode. I kept crying during it through and through. Even before we get to Bill and Frank, like the section of like Joel and Ellie going through the store, that was also really good. You get to see Ellie kind of having this sociopathic behavior of her like just using the knife on the infected and like just hurting it and then killing it. Like, that's a problem that we might have to address later. And it's kind of addressed in episode 4, but we'll get to that. But then the entire like core of this episode with Bill and Frank is so beautiful, heartwarming, heart-wrenching, and they service the game super well just by, instead of having Bill and Frank, if you play the game, you know, they work together but they broke up. And eventually Frank kills himself. But in this, they stay together through the entire way through, and they get the happy ending that they deserve, and it's just so well done, and it really serves the story well with that letter that Joel got from Bill at the very end, but it also just shows that there's still beauty in this world. And for those of you who say that this story served nothing, it did. It was a great episode. What do you have to say about it?
I agree. I think this show has done a really good job of like isolating itself from in the zombie apocalypse genre.
Yeah.
Because like there wasn't a single like infected or corrupted. Well, there
like
was on a
two.
CRTV screen.
And sorry not to interrupt,
No,
but
you're
like
good.
this show isn't about zombies. It's about The Last of Us. It's about us and how we deal with all our entire world being gone.
It was really interesting, and it was a very well told story. I think it worked well. Ultimately, I think it was a long one. It was basically its own short film or film. It was like an hour and 20 minutes for the entire episode, and with that, we didn't see a lot of Joel and Ellie this episode, which episode 4 does make up for.
Yeah.
But still, episode 3, I wish there was a little more. Though that being said, though, if they did, I think I would have gotten annoyed at the ping ponging with time. I'm glad that you had Joel and Ellie at the beginning, and then they started all the way back in like 2003, and they worked their way forward. I think they did that super well. I don't think I would have liked if they actually ended up like ping pong between past and present, because then that would have gotten even more confusing.
I think it was good. Like I didn't miss Joel and Ellie's presence while I was watching Bill and Frank do it, just because I was so like enveloped in their relationship, and I was just rooting for them the entire time. And knowing the game, I was so scared about where it was going to lead that I was. Oh, sorry. You go.
I was going to interrupt you. You go.
Okay. Yeah, I was just so scared about where it was going to lead. I was like, please don't break up. That I was just like enraptured by all of it. And sorry, you can go. I was just gonna keep gushing about it, but
at this point, I do not know what's coming next.
Okay.
So for episode 3 with Bill and Frank, I remembered Bill from the game vaguely. I did not remember anything,
and that's because he wasn't that big of a character.
Right.
But in this one, they give him so much more depth.
I think this episode, or really the main thing I have to say is with what I was saying, the first thing with making a name for itself in the zombie apocalypse genre of probably doing humanity the most justice.
Yeah.
While on the flip side, showcasing what humanity really would be like in this apocalypse setting, where it's one of the biggest things you have to worry about in a zombie apocalypse isn't the zombies, it's the other people. And they do a very good job of showing both sides of that coin. Like even in episode 3 alone, where you get that like the Raiders attack at night sequence, where Frank runs out into the middle of the street and then gets Bill shot in the back because reasons.
That scene was like at first the only part where I was like, I don't know if that was necessary because it was just super short and then it just cut. But then thinking back, I do really like that moment, and it does lead up very well to the last like point of time we see Bill and Frank.
Yeah,
what's our time?
We're at 5 minutes 30 seconds right now.
Left?
Yeah. Or through.
Oh, okay.
Stopwatch. We're like, I really like the symbolism that they've used throughout the series so far. I think there's a lot of like simple beauty in like opening a window.
That
and just,
window.
Like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff they are able to play with here without using any words.
Do you know that the window is the start scene for the game?
Yes.
Yeah. They wanted to do that for each episode, have an open window, and then you have to like press a button on your remote to start it.
Nice.
And they're like, "Oh, that was a bad idea. Let's not do it."
But just like, I don't know. It was a very well told story.
It was.
And I don't know. There's like, it was really like a speechless kind of episode where you watch it and you experience it and you're like, okay, good job. But let's go ahead and move on to
let's do
episode
it.
4. We're back to Joel and Ellie. And this episode serves like the big purpose of like more solidifying that bond.
Exactly.
Like, one of the first things they talk, or like one of the first conversations that they have, is Joel saying that she's cargo, and that he protects family, and the family is what matters. And I don't know. I'm not gonna like.
Yeah. But even like when he says that, it's like, okay, come on, bro. You know that's not true. Because even like at the beginning of episode 3, when he's not forgiven Ellie for Tessa's death, he still like gives her his jacket so she can be warm, and he's like, keep it, like, be warm.
It did a good job of showcasing Joel's compassion while still showing him as distant, and I think the pacing of that is going to end up very well, because we're technically halfway through.
I was thinking that like towards the beginning of the episode, and I was like, how are we going to finish the game?
Right.
That's the only worry I have for this season. It's just because we are still in summer, and of course they can play with that more. But at some point, it is going to be winter. We're going to get that David segment.
Well,
and
I would.
I just said a name.
Okay.
And like the game goes through each season, and it's like, okay, at some point we are going to have to go through each season. We're halfway through. We're still in summer.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I trust them.
I agree. I trust that they'll be able to nail the pacing of it. I think they've done a really good job so far. I'm still in the dark. I don't know like the major story beats of anything that's going to happen. Good. I know a distant one that wouldn't come till much later, but I still don't know anything
Is
really
that like,
about it.
Would that be like a season 2 thing?
No.
Okay.
I just don't want to say anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyways.
By the way, it was renewed for season 2.
It was.
Yeah.
That I'm interested about.
I'm very excited about.
Well, I know the second game doesn't have as good reception as the first one.
It doesn't have as good reception for bad reasons. Some people do have valid criticisms.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't.
So I'm curious if the show is going to fix it, or if they're going to try and like still be real with it, but do their own like twists on it. I think they've done so far.
It's what you just said. They'll still be true to it. Anyway, episode 4.
Yes.
I just like you said, this episode really emphasized the bond between Joel and Ellie, and it did it so well. But one of my favorite things about it was the humanization of the enemies, because in the game they're just a force that you have to get through, whereas here, you get to know them, who they are. They're just people also trying to survive. And that moment with, I think, like Brian, like him begging for his life. Yeah. When like before you wanted Joel or Ellie to like kill him because he was trying to kill them. But now you're on the flip side and you're like, we don't have to do this. Like, let's not do this. And of course Joel, because he knows what will happen if he doesn't, he still goes through with it. And that moment was so like hard to watch, especially seeing Ellie's face on it, which was speaking of when I referenced in episode 3, her reckoning with violence, and she actually hurt someone and how that affected her.
Right.
Like, there were so many things going on in that scene, and it was all done so well.
I think there is a lot to that, like, there's a lot that they explored in this episode without, like, they have such a good way of, like, capturing the characters from the game without, because it's such, like, a hard, like, way to talk about it. Because obviously, or, like, video game movies and adaptations have never, like, this is very high up on the list. I think most people would agree on that. And I'm sure, like, many people have already seen the clips of, like, it's, like, mirrored on either side of, like, the scene with the watch, or, like, in this one with the magazine.
The magazine scene,
Like, they're almost verbatim from the show, but the actor or like, just both Joel and Ellie do a very good job of applying themselves to it. And it's in such a subtle way that it's hard to explain in words, where you, like, because I watched Last of Us gameplay a long time ago, but I'm not looking at them and seeing, like, the video game characters. I'm seeing, like, TV Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a very good job of, like, making that distinction for themselves.
Yeah. I also do like how they set a lot of things up in this episode for future stuff, like at the very end.
And be careful.
I'm just saying, when we get the people, like, holding the gun to them, and when they go to that, like, storage closet and there's something underground.
Yeah.
And I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to say anything. But just that looming threat, it's what's under there, and we know this is bad. By the way, that, like, prominent soldier guy, he plays Tommy in the video game.
Which soldier?
The guy with the beard who was, like, walking around with the leader.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they... Oh, yeah, I guess they can't really use him for Tommy anymore.
Yeah.
But good for him coming back. Good for them for, like, bringing back and honoring the like, original cast.
Yeah. But yeah, this episode was also super great. I thought it was really good. Did you see that we are getting the next episode early?
No.
We're getting it Friday instead of Sunday because of Super Bowl.
When is the Super Bowl?
It's this Sunday.
It's the Sunday?
Yeah, I had no idea
either. I don't care.
Yeah, tune in next week for our Super Bowl recap.
No.
We go play by play.
I'm busy. I'm sorry.
Busy watching Last of Us.
No, I'm busy watching the Super Bowl.
Hey.
We're from Cincinnati, so obviously, or if you're listening to this in like a decade, it is 2023, and the Bengals just lost, so they didn't make it to the Super Bowl.
I had a lot of coworkers at my job really upset.
Same, because apparently that's all that people care about in this area. But anyway, Super Bowl's coming up. We're going to watch Last of Us early. That's convenient, actually, for me.
It is really nice. But anyway, what's our time?
We're at 13 minutes, 52 seconds.
Okay, we did good.
Yeah, I can fill in the rest of the space if you want.
Okay.
One of the most frustrating things about Star Wars Episode 8.
No. All right, so our...
Like the janitor plot?
Austin.
Okay.
What was that?
I think that was that Anthony doing a bit?
No. I think that was a knock.
Oh?
At the studio.
What am I supposed to say?
M. Night Shyamalan presents.
Okay. Very
Knock
nice.
at the Studio, a sequel to Knock at the Cabin.
You're gonna be thinking about
Austin.
That
who would we sacrifice?
I would sacrifice you almost instantly.
Yes. Let's move into our main topic.
Yes.
That is Knock at the Cabin.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, I
want to be very elusive with.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
When you be very vague.
This movie, at the very basics, is a home invasion movie where the invaders think they are invading for a reason. Mm-hmm. We do not know what reason that is, or you shouldn't going in. By the way, watch. If you're going to watch any trailer, watch the first one because that it doesn't tell you anything. The second one tells you way too much.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. But yeah, you get this happy, loving couple with their daughter. They go to a cabin for a vacation, and there's a bunch of people showing up, and it's led by Dave Bautista, and he's a big guy, so it's kind of hard to say like, oh no, I'm gonna fight back.
Well, don't worry, he's wearing glasses.
He is,
which means he's gentle.
Yes. So let's get into the very basics.
Yes.
Austin, what are your general thoughts of this movie?
I liked it. I think I really liked it. I think I need some time before I decide on that fact. There's like, I think the thing this movie does best is keeping its suspense up the entire time. I think it's a very tense movie. And I think the pacing of it was very well done. Let me also just slide this out here real quick. M. Night Shyamalan's last movie was Old.
And it got old.
And if you saw Old, then you probably lost 20 years of your life. It was really, really bad. It was written terribly. It was incredibly gimmicky. Now, Anthony, do you know what the difference between this movie is and Old?
What is it?
He got his idea from somebody else for this one.
Well, Old is based on a graphic novel.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I don't. Is it?
It is.
I have conflicted thoughts about that.
I think he wrote it by himself. Knock at the Cabin, he did a revision. He didn't write it.
Sounds more right. But and also it's weird. It's the name of the book is Cabin at the End of the World, but then he changes.
Should we say that?
It's
okay.
That I think that's okay, or it's still ambiguous.
Okay.
I feel like I won't go into any more details than that. But still, I think changing the title was odd in the first place. When it's based on the book.
Yeah. Which is a much better title.
I agree. Knock at the Cabin, although it plays into Anthony's bit for the segue into this movie, I don't think it was nearly as good as the original title.
Yeah. The titular Knock at the Cabin, which lasted 5 seconds.
Exactly.
I'm with you. I liked this movie with some caveats. I was very worried going in because of what you said, Old.
Yes.
I do like M. Night Shyamalan. I have not seen all of his movies. I usually pick the ones I hear are good and I watch those, which is why I say I like him. But like Unbreakable, I haven't seen Signs, but Glass, and then the one before Split. I watched Split. Yeah. I liked all of those. I think I watched a few others, but anyway. This movie has some of the best parts of M. Night Shyamalan and some of the worst parts of M. Night Shyamalan. Like you said, the pacing I did think was really good, except for the beginning and the end. I think the beginning, it just starts and it keeps going, which is good, but we don't really get a proper introduction to these characters, I don't think.
I super duper disagree.
Okay.
I think this movie's pacing is, well,
I mainly mean the
my
family and their dynamic, and like the parents mainly, who is Jonathan Groff, and I don't know the other person's name.
I think that plays into it.
Yeah.
I think because we can't say much.
Well, but I would say in the trailer they showed a scene which is very like Old, where you get the family at the beginning driving in a car, singing to music, having a good time.
Well, it can't be a Jonathan Groff movie without him singing.
And I thought that is how they were going to start it and like introduce us to this family. And that was a flashback about halfway through. And I thought that was placed a little weirdly. I would have liked that to come at the beginning.
I can't really get into it while it's not our spoilers section. But I think not knowing specifics about the family aids the storytelling. Because I think their identity is kind of, and like what they stand for and that kind of thing, plays into the motive of everything going on around them.
I do agree with that, which is why this movie does go back and forth with like flashbacks to right now,
and it isn't too heavy.
No, it's not.
I personally think they're at good points as well.
I agree with that, but I would have liked just an introduction of, here's this family coming in, because at the very beginning, they introduce us to the daughter, but the parents, we don't really get much of anything for them, so it's like I don't have an emotional attachment to them yet, and yet this is when it's getting super heavy and like they're intruding, where I'm like, I don't know who you are. Why should I be attached to you guys? Where they do a good job later on with getting you attached.
I think I'm already attached because it's Jonathan Groff. 2, I think I'm standing by that, or I think in like even in the first 15 minutes of the film when they're establishing these characters, I think like they don't tell you a lot, but I think in the very minimal lines and actions that they do have, it is super solid.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
They already like they demonstrate that they're like loving parents, etc. And their relationship, you can already tell which one is more like defending and calm, and which one's more aggressive and like defending in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that aids the storytelling for what the purpose of the story is very well. I think if we got a flashback at the beginning,
it would be a flashback. It would have been they're going to the cabin.
I think if we got anything like that though, I think it would have burned on for too long. I really like how quickly this movie gets into it.
Yeah. I do like that. It's just when we did get to the home invasion aspect of it, which is like maybe 5 minutes in, it was done so quickly and it was so like chaotically well done, which it was very well done, where it was, I don't know what's going on
exactly,
but in terms of these characters and like why are they doing this or that, I just want a little more introduction for them.
I think that's the real catch of it, and that's what hooked me. Was that
I would like to pick your brain about this in the spoiler section when we get
write
to
it down on your laptop so don't forget. But I just to speak more on that opening section, I think they it's not really a spoiler to like say that Dave Bautista is like the first and like kind of main guy that shows up, and his like performance is immediately like it's that unnerving feeling.
Yes,
because the intentions of everybody across the board, you have no idea. But they all give a very good performance on what their characters are supposed to be.
I would like to move on to that.
Yes.
The villains, which I use with air quotes, of this movie, or I guess antagonists, they are probably my favorite aspect of this movie because they have so much conflict in them. Because the reason they are doing this invasion is not because they want to, because they feel that they have to.
Yes.
And you get a lot of conflict with them, especially Dave Bautista, who gives such a great performance in this. He is like working to be a really good actor.
I feel like everybody's seen the articles rolling around and like all the Dave
him
Bautista
versus The Rock, or
just like him in general.
Oh yeah, because he just kills it.
Like obviously, the typecast with Drax was super. Like I know he's upset about it. I know a lot of people are also like sympathizing with him because we've seen this and he's in Glass Onion too.
Yeah, do you watch Glass Onion?
Not yet.
He was so good in that too.
And I really I would hate it too if I was typecast as like poop jokes and I'm invisible when I stand still, and then I have the capability of giving a in-depth performance. But I'm not like allowed to because I'm now known as the purple guy oaf.
Well, I think he saved himself by having a quick 5-minute like scene in Blade Runner 2049, because that was in like 2017, right when Guardians 2 came out, right before Infinity War with the invisibility jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
And in that scene, he had so much like humanity in his performance, and he just gave so much in what little time he had, that just proved himself immediately as an actor and a force to be reckoned with.
I agree.
And James Gunn did a really good job with him in the first Guardians too. Well, Guardians movie, not Guardians 2.
Yeah. Well, there's a specific moment in Guardians 2 that's really good with him on the stairs. That sequence is super duper good.
Oh yeah.
It sucks
I know
that
what you mean.
the rest of the movie exists, but like that little snippet, even like it was very well done.
But and then in this movie, he just kills it again as this heartbroken dude who is doing this very violent act, but you still sympathize with him because you know what his intentions are, and like, or even then you don't even truly know who he is, but you want to trust him, even though like he has this big foreboding figure as he does,
but he's wearing glasses.
He does. He's wearing glasses. That's what endears you to him. But even then, they do a really good job with his figure and using that to their advantage in this movie, because he's probably the most calmest antagonist, but he's so huge. You're like
a gentle giant.
When like you don't want to cross him, like because you don't know if he is going to snap at one moment or another.
I'm trying to define with myself still where my problems lie with this movie.
I have a few issues with the writing.
It's not a perfect film by any means.
No, yeah.
I think there may be like a few lapses in the performance, intense moments that would have aided it.
I feel like some of the other performances aren't as strong as they could be.
I agree.
By the way, what's worse than a British person? A British person doing an American accent.
Was that
Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley?
I thought he was British.
That was not a great accent.
Yeah, he did a good job. Performance wise.
Yeah. The accent I was not a big fan of.
You could feel it slipping through.
By the way, I'm just kidding. British people, don't hate me.
What do you mean?
I just need subtitles when I watch movies.
Speaking officially on That's a Wrap, we... Never mind.
Don't say it.
Never mind. I realize we're publishing this episode, so...
Let's cut that out.
Cutting it out?
What?
We're not cutting that out.
Okay.
Sorry, British people.
I'm just gonna...
British people, you're fine. French people, don't get me started.
So this movie, Knock at the Cabin. There's a knock, and it's at a cabin. What more do you want?
That's true. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Do you have any more to say? Because there is a lot to say, but it's hard.
There is.
I do... Or sorry, you go.
You go.
I was just going to say, I do have a slight issue with the ending.
Okay.
Mainly... Well, I was just going to say, because of pacing, I thought it could have been paced better, and I wanted more of it.
Disagree, I think.
We'll talk about it.
Do you already know the Rotten Tomatoes score?
I don't, but I'm the host, so I'll look it up.
Okay. So, how y'all doing out there?
How would you rate this movie?
Oh, okay. I gave this a 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Okay.
I would probably give this like an 86 maybe.
Okay.
Maybe an 88. Not a 90, but an 88.
Okay. I would give it like a 70. I just think there are some moments there's a few like wonky lines of dialogue in this, and like you said, like
valid.
The dialogue the performances could be better here and there. But I do think it is a very engaging movie. Like you said, it's very thrilling, and they don't let up whatsoever at any point. You don't know what's going to happen next, and it succeeds very well in that way.
It's very hard for a movie to not have me checking my watch to see when it'll end, and I did not check my watch.
Also, the violence in this movie, you don't see. Which is, do you want to save that?
Let's save everything else for
spoilers. Let's save everything else. Did I say what score I would give it?
No. Yes, you did. You were like 70.
70-ish. Yeah.
Give me a number.
72.
Okay, thank you. All right, carry on.
76. 76. Okay. I like this movie. Austin.
Yeah.
What is the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie?
I don't know. I don't think people are going to like it as much as I did. But I'm going to say the critic score is 84. 84% for critic.
84?
I think audience are going to be around there. Maybe they liked it a little more, but not by much. I'm just going to shoot 85. I don't think either of those are particularly correct, but I'm going to shoot it and see what happens.
84, 85. Austin.
Yeah.
For the tomato meter, you said
84.
84%.
84%.
With 240 reviews.
Okay.
The actual score is 68%.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The consensus.
Yeah, what happened?
Although it's often less scary and parts of the story don't bear scrutiny, Knock at the Cabin is a thought-provoking chiller in upper-tier Shyamalan. That's the problem. It's not a horror movie.
It's not a horror movie.
People think it's a horror movie, but it's not, because when you go into a Shyamalan movie, like it's not against him.
Yeah.
But there are certain expectations that have been built up because of the hype surrounding him and his past movies, like The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, and Old.
Old, which is like a kind of horror movie.
Supposed to be a psychological thriller.
So you go in thinking it's going to be scary, but this movie is a thriller.
Yeah.
And like it said, like thought-provoking. But so
I
that's
don't
on you, critics.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's supposed to be a horror movie.
You know what? We should be verified critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
I wonder if we could do that. I wonder what the process for that is.
I think we could.
Let's try it.
Let's try it.
That'd be really fun.
The audience score. Would you like to change it?
No. I think I'll stick with it. I don't think it's going to be high, but it's kind of like my token to this movie. I think it deserves it.
For audience, you said 85%.
I did.
With over 500 verified ratings, the actual score is 64%, even lower than the critics. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah.
I saw on
Can't win 'em
CinemaScore
all.
it got a C, which I'm very surprised at. I thought it would at least get a B.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But
Dang.
those are the scores. Do you have any more thoughts before we move into spoilers? I don't either. So let's go into spoilers. And
5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
All right. So the introductions.
Yeah.
What?
I think they were all super solid.
Okay.
I think one of the main problems with movies like this, or like, if you're going to have 7 people stuck in a room together for the entirety of the movie, you need to know their names. This movie did a fairly decent job of being like, here's this person. Now it's my turn. Now it's my turn. And it felt right. Because it was clearly like let's meet the bad guys. But also...
that part. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that part.
But it read, like, realistically, like, absolutely something these crazy fanatics would do. Like,
I do what you just said about these crazy fanatics. I love how they played with that.
Yeah.
How, wait, you guys met on a message board? And how they, like, even you can see in Dave Bautista's, like, face at some points, he's starting to believe them, too. Like, maybe this is all fake. And then he's like, oh, no, it's real. One of the things about the ending that I was just saying I wanted more of is I wanted more of the philosophical discussion of who would we sacrifice if we had to.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand these characters did not even want to humor the idea of them having to sacrifice one of them. I understand that, but at the very end, it just felt a little rushed for it. Okay, like it felt like, okay, we have to wrap this up. Let's make the sacrifice and move on. Because it was just like, okay, I'm gonna die, and you're gonna take care of our daughter.
Well, I feel like they were cooking on that for a while. I feel like, and listen, I love Jonathan Groff.
I don't think they were cooking on it like the movie was, but the characters weren't.
I disagree. I would go as far to say, and my God, I will go and pray. I'm very sorry for saying this. But Jonathan Groff's like visual performance in this movie was like lower compared to everybody else, and I think that would be to blame for his like experience with play or theater and like musicals and everything like stage wise, because you're supposed to play it all up for people further. And so you can see like some of his emotions and some of his facial reactions don't really match that, but still, that's not to discredit. I think he does a good job of like. You can see him, even in the earliest scenes, he's, like, trying to work with the people in front of him.
Okay, I see what you mean about that.
Eric, and the other one's Andrew. I think he's Eric.
By the way,
He's
the line
Eric.
I do not like is before Dave Bautista is in the house, and one of them talks.
Yeah,
is that Daddy Andrew?
Yeah.
Is that Daddy Eric?
I think that's hilarious.
that was funny, but it was also like, why did you say that? Like, I understand that's what's the daughter's name?
When
I understand when said that, but it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be threatening, but that is threatening.
Yeah, well, I think that was like I think that Ryan was written very well, because it's like Dave Bautista or Leonard's like way of thinking is that him communicating that their daughters trust him would make them trust him, but in reality, it's like that's incredibly disturbing.
At first, I was like, "Ooh, Leonard is a dumb villain name," and I was like, "Okay, it's because he's not a villain; he's a school teacher." I like that now. I also, speaking of Dave Bautista and how huge he is, and Eric is Jonathan Groff. Yeah. When he was in the bathroom and he threw Eric and he went flying. I laughed so hard at that. That was so funny. That's not a knock or like a positive or anything. I just really like that aspect.
Right.
But I do see what you mean about Eric knew right away that it was going to be him. But I wanted a discussion about that because Andrew didn't like humor it whatsoever. And I understand that it does make sense for his character, but I wondered if at the end, if Dave Bautista didn't like immediately like go away, if he was alive and he's like, okay, you have to make a choice, and they're like, okay, this is actually happening, right? Let's talk about this. And then he's like, okay, you have minutes. You wasted too much time, and then that's when they do it. Right. Whereas they only have that discussion right after Dave Bautista dies, and they only have like 3 minutes left. It just that aspect felt a little rushed.
I mean, that's fair. I think for me, it read very well. I think that this entire movie is a, like, I don't know the names of curves anymore, but it's the one that goes like inwards, where it starts like pretty slow.
Concave.
Man, you can say as many math words as you want here. I'm not gonna. Okay. That's why I'm a theater major or film major. And you do have to do math for film major, actually.
Oh, we do.
If you get into production
management,
my manager. You have to know Excel super well, and then also for like 3D modeling and animation, you have to know, you have to know. Not that. Well,
I'm not minoring in animation. Are you?
I'm DFX minor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Anyways, I think the pacing starts like super slow and unsettling with Dave Bautista walking up to Wen in the forest. It's like,
yes,
what is this guy's intentions? What's
that was so scary.
It was, because like at that point, without knowing anything about the movie, you don't know if he's just gonna go and pick her up and run away.
And then it's like, oh, I'm a school teacher, so he thought he was just doing like the teacher thing, whereas from an outside point of view, it's like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And they do like a fairly good job. I don't think it's until the like plane scene that I was really sold on whether or not the world was really ending. Yeah. But up until that point, they do a very, very decent job of like, are these crazy people?
Yeah.
Or did they actually have visions?
Yeah. I love the part where they turn on the TV and they're like, 4 hours ago, the earthquake. And I was like, that's a plot hole. They said 4 hours ago. That is dumb. And then Andrew's like, bro, they said 4 hours ago. This is not real. I was like, oh, okay. I stand corrected. I just love how the movie was smart enough to anticipate our moves.
Correct.
Where there was only one aspect I felt like I knew where the ending was going to go, and it did go that way. And I don't know if it's because of the movie or because I've seen enough films where it's like, oh, I'm going to go because I'm the perfect father and you are the father with problems, but you can be the best one. And that was at the flashback with them meeting Andrew's parents, I believe. Yeah. And it was like, okay, Andrew has like problems in his life. Eric doesn't. He has the perfect family. He's calm. Andrew does have anger issues. His parents don't accept them as a couple. So I'm like, okay, you have like not more to prove as a father, but you have more growth that you can have. So it's going to be you who survives and Eric is going to die.
Yeah.
And that aspect, like I said, I don't know if it's because I've seen enough movies like this where that always happens, or if it's the movie just forecasting it way too much. Did you know how it was going to end?
I think it wasn't less of like a prediction and more of just like it felt natural. I think it
did feel natural
because the entire time it's Groff them like him almost sympathizing with them. He doesn't want anybody to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And you can like even in the flashbacks that they like every time something intense happens, there's like the breathe out.
Yeah, and like the you me together.
That's where the flashbacks always happen. And I think in those flashbacks, it's very clear that like Eric is the most content with his life. Everything is just kind of like flowing by for him. And let me like in a good way where it's like nothing really bothers him.
Yeah.
And so those flashbacks pieced away him like in the bathroom with the doctor who's genuinely trying to take care of him.
And even that scene, like when you said it all feels natural, it does. That scene could have felt so forced. It could have felt like, okay, now we're going to get an exposition dump. Yeah. And it did not feel that way. A lot of this did feel so natural. And it's like, okay, that is what this character would do.
I think to go back to what you were saying about the end of the movie and how fast it was paced, I think ultimately having it, because if they took any more time, you would have lost the suspense. Like their doomsday was like the fire and the lightning and all that. And
then, that's why I was saying while they still had time, like because when Rupert Grint died, which is, by the way, he had so little screen time, which I understand, but I was like, oh man. And they were like, okay, we're going to make a decision the next day. I thought they were going to take it like there's 4 days. And so I thought, okay, the final day is when they have this philosophical conversation. But instead, they didn't.
Yeah. I think there definitely was more that they could explore with everything. But with Old being the last M. Night Shyamalan taste that I had, it was like, this felt much better.
It does, yeah.
And I think the only real thing that this movie lacked for me was deep emotional value. I didn't cry during it, and it didn't move me, but I think it still captivated me.
I think that's where it gets you, because it didn't move me either, but it still did captivate me, which is what I wanted going in. So I really enjoyed this movie. Do you think you're gonna watch it again?
I would.
Like in theaters?
I would, or not in theaters, but if like anybody would want to watch it and they haven't seen it before, I'd sit down with them.
It's Universal, so it's probably gonna go on Peacock.
It's only an hour and 40 minutes as well.
That's true.
It feels like it's the right length.
M. Night Shyamalan does a great job with his lengths.
Is that a joke? I don't know how long his other movies
No, he actually does. Like almost all of his movies.
How long was Old?
It's like an hour 50 something.
That could have been a short film.
Hour 48.
Okay, I guess.
And all of his movies, I think except for one, is under 2 hours.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he respects our time. But that's really all I got.
That's all I have. I just realized before the spoiler segment, we should have plugged all our stuff.
I don't know. We'll be fine.
It's fine. You can follow us at That's a Wrap NCR on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
It's exciting.
It is.
I got my dad to subscribe to us the other day.
Yeah.
Shout out to my dad.
Good. Shout out. I saw it go from 18 to 19. Maybe that was him.
Probably. We're gonna open a Patreon so you can.
Yeah, we're gonna have a 20 subscriber celebration soon.
We're gonna have a party. We'll have pizza.
Yeah. Hopefully we get our second dislike.
Oh God, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That's all I'm looking forward to anymore. But yeah. Is there anything else we need to plug?
Next week.
Yes.
We will be reviewing our Valentine's Day special.
Right.
Somebody I Used to Know on Amazon. There's not much coming out next week. I mean, there is Magic Mike, but there's like an Amazon movie and a Netflix movie, and we're like, Okay, between the two of them, the Amazon movie looks better. We have 20 subscribers.
Do we?
We do.
Bro, I should have brought the confetti.
Woo!
Yeah, all right. Thank you all for subscribing. I wonder if that was somebody right now. We don't check live listeners here. Maybe
we don't.
I don't know how to.
I forget. I know it's something.
I
don't want to give the link.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Very much for watching. We'll be back next week with that silly little film. But until then,
that's a wrap.